My name is Howard Hill. I'm 94 years old, and I was in World War II for 2 years on an aircraft carrier. But I graduated Proviso High School in 1944 in June, and in August, before my birthday, I went in the Navy. When you were 18, then you were subject to draft. So if you went in at age earlier than 18, a parent had to sign for you. So I just can't imagine what anguish she went through to sign for me, sign her son away. Didn't know where he was going to go. She didn't know where I was for 16 months. Didn't know much about the war. The war, as you know, was over there, nothing here. It was a real threat for the Japanese to occupy our country. So everybody, literally everybody, was patriotic. Everybody, the age limit for working in factories was waived. So in fact, you could work in a factory at any age. I worked at Jefferson Electric in Bellwood, Illinois, worked there, and they had a secret department that we didn't know what was being done there, but my high school compatriots worked there also, but did not know what was being done there. So we worked there. We also, while we were in high school, we collected, what did we collect? We collected newspaper, rubber bands, and made balls of rubber bands, cooking grease, gasoline was rationed. You could only get so much gasoline. Rubber was rationed. The national speed limit, hard to believe, was 35 miles an hour to save rubber and gasoline. We collected tin foil from gum wrappers. We looked in the gutters and picked up gum wrappers and cigarette wrappers to get the tin foil and made a ball of them, all for the war effort. One of the things we did in high school in our shop classes, we made balsa wood airplanes, airplane replicas, and painted them black. And these were used by the military as silhouette airplanes for distinguishing what type of plane it was. This is a Japanese Zero. These are the ones that the kamikazes use. And from 30 feet away, a pilot in training would look at these, and that's what it would look like from their airplane, and they had to distinguish friend or foe what it was. So we made these by the dozens and gave them to the military. Everybody was patriotic. We were concerned about our safety. The only ones experiencing war were the ones over there, not here. So at a young age, that was just eye-opening. And I guess I decided to join. My dad had been in the Navy in World War I, so I'm assuming that's why I was really patriotic toward that branch of service. Well, I enlisted, and of course, as I said, went to Great Lakes for my basic training. And I went to Great Lakes for basic training, and then they sent me to diesel mechanic school for 3 months. And then I went out to Hunters Point in California to pick up a ship. And when I got on the ship, they looked at my application and they saw that I had worked at Jefferson Electric Company in Bellwood, Illinois. And the word electric was a magic name for them. They said, "We need electricians. You are an electrician now," after all that training. And I think it was the best job on the ship. I really do. It probably was the safest, but also just the best job. So I really got lucky there when they saw that. We went to Pearl Harbor, we went down to Guadalcanal, and Guadalcanal was a place where the Bataan Death March originated, all the Americans, and the tank battalion from Maywood, Illinois, was a big part of that Bataan March. There were 80-some men from Maywood. In fact, they've got a street named Bataan Drive in Maywood right now. And they used to have a parade every September for Bataan Day. So we started out there and then worked our way up to the Philippines and liberated the Philippine people. And we stayed there for maybe a month. Our ship was a converted tanker. We could hold 3 million gallons of fuel. So we could refuel other ships. We would refuel destroyers, and destroyers would come up alongside and tie up their hoses and get fueled, and we would give them ice cream. We could make ice cream on our ship. We had powdered milk, and make powdered milk. We didn't like it, but we gave it to them because they brought our mail. So that was exciting for them and for us too to get our mail from the United States. And talking about the mail, maybe he can take a picture of it. All our mail on the ship was censored by the officers. We couldn't tell where we had been or what we had been doing or what battles we'd been in. They would take our letters before they sent them out, and they'd cut out words that the enemy could cause some damage. And one of the things they had during World War II was what they call V-mail, victory mail. And this is a copy of it. They would take a letter and they would microfilm it. And one sack of this replaced 39 sacks of regular mail. So all the letters were done in this manner. We went up north, up to Okinawa, and we spent about 45 days off Okinawa. Our planes took off every day and torpedo bombed Okinawa. April 1st, 1945 was Pay Day, April Fool's Day, and Invasion Day, all on the same day. And so that's quite memorable anyway. And then from Okinawa, we crossed the Pacific Ocean about 4 times. As I said, we went 107,000 miles all the time I was on the ship. From there, we went down to, in early August, the first atomic bomb was detonated in Hiroshima. And then a few days later, then the one in Nagasaki, Japan, where it killed 70,000 people in an instant from that bomb. And the United States was very considerate. They detonated both of these bombs 1,800 feet above the ground, so it would have less effect on people. It would destroy buildings. So anybody that was inside a building or lying in a ditch was saved. So General MacArthur sent our ship in there to liberate, recover, they were called them ramps, recovered Allied military prisoners of war. So prisoners of war from Japanese prison camps from 10 miles away were brought to the hospital ship Haven that was in port with us, and they were treated. And then 1,500 at a time were sent to our ship, and then we took them to Okinawa to be sent off to their home country, Australia, Great Britain, and different countries. So we made 2 trips of 1,500 at a time. We could put 1,500 cots on our hangar deck where we stored airplanes. So that's where I got my exposure. I'm an atomic veteran, one of the few healthy ones. But the devastation was it's just hard to believe. There's just nothing left. The people were very gracious to us. They saluted us. They bowed to us. The general public did not know what was going on. It was the Hirohitos and the people that had created the war. I mentioned that I worked at Jefferson Electric Company, and they had this special department. What they made in that department was the detonating devices for the atomic bomb. So I was there where that was being manufactured, and I was there to see the effects of what it did. It's kind of unique, and not many people can say that. In fact, I'm not sure anybody can. After we left Nagasaki, we went up to Tokyo for the signing of the peace agreement, and we went ashore for Liberty. Half the ship would go one day and half the next day. Went on Liberty in Tokyo, and my friend Dean and I were walking around the town, and of course people there didn't use washrooms like we do. They had ditches, and they just do their toiletry in the ditches. So we're walking around sightseeing. I bought stamps at the post office and got coins and visited with people. There were no English signs, so we were looking for a washroom, and we couldn't find one. We finally saw a building that looks like it was a washroom. We walked in there, the 2 of us, and here's 100 naked women sitting around a pool. It was a women's bath, public bath. High school kids get a chuckle out of that. So after leaving that, then we came back to the United States, to San Diego, and then we came down to the Panama Canal to go to Boston to be decommissioned. Our ship was too wide for the canal. So they had to cut off, I've got a picture in the book, got to cut off the the aircraft sponsons on the side of the ship, they stuck out little. They had to cut those off with a welding torch, and then they lifted them off on top of the flight deck. Then we went through the canal, and then they put them back and welded them back and put them on. And then we went up to Boston, and the ship was decommissioned there, and I came back to Great Lakes to be discharged. This was my ship. It was a converted tanker. As I said, we could have 3 million gallons of fuel oil on board. We had 32 airplanes, Grumman TBM torpedo plane. TBM is torpedo bomber. And we had F-6F Hellcat fighters, which would be similar to the Zero that I just showed you. So this is our ship, and then on the side,
What was the name of it?
USS Chenango is named after a river in New York. These sponsons on the side here were the things that had to be cut off when we went through the Panama Canal. So this was my home for 16 months. My mother didn't know where I was for 16 months. We slept in a big room where there'd be 100 sailors in one room, and there were 100 cots in that room. And as I said, Dean and I didn't like cigarette smoke, so we got permission to sleep up in the, in fact, I didn't mention that too. We slept up in a room in the forward end of the ship called the degaussing room. Degaussing is demagnetizing. The Japanese sewed magnetic mines, and if a ship would hit the mine, it would cause damage. So this demagnetized the ship so they wouldn't be attracted. And we also had people on the ship who would shoot when we see a mine. They or a destroyer would go over and shoot it with a gun and destroy it. So he and I slept in that room, and there were two great big motor generators, probably this big in diameter. And so there was a noise all the time. And that's why I have hearing aids. The VA gave me hearing aids because of the noise created tinnitus in my ears. But at least he and I got away from the cigarette smoke. Well, this is a propaganda leaflet that we would distribute to people of Japan. Our airplanes would drop it off and saying that we're good guys and we're not trying to hurt you and on and on. I can't read it, it's Japanese. That was our ship. This was the money. This is United States money. It's Philippine money, but it's victory money. United States of America money. And we could use this in the Philippines. Well, we had church service, and they would always have the church service to us. So we were, and our mileage. I was in the electrical group, and in the electrician's station, there'll be a picture in here of that. We had what they call a pit log, pitometer, and that's the speedometer and odometer for the ship. So every day I would write down our mileage that we had traveled on the ship, and I don't think anybody else ever did that. So that's how I could keep track of how many miles we actually went. As I said, it was 107,000 miles, so it's quite a cruise. And then these are the pictures in Nagasaki, Japan. As I said, there's 10 of these, and the National Museum only had one, so they have a copy of this book, so they took pictures of all these.
So hold on one. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Here's a picture of all the recovered Allied prisoners of war on our cots in our hangar deck. And these are two Hiroshima pictures. This is a Japanese one-man submarine, two-man submarine. They were kamikazes too. These submarines had torpedoes on them, and they would ram a ship to damage it or try to sink it. So this was at Nagasaki for African Americans. That sounds strange today, but they served the officers food. They were the steward. They made their beds. They served their food. They did nothing. And then when we'd go to battle stations, they manned the guns.
Did you get to see Raquel Welch?
Not then.
Hold on, let me see the Bob Hope one. Hold right there.
He had a sign on the studio set. He had a sign on his back. It says, "Drop it, brother. It's Bob Hope's." This one is a victory medal. Everybody who was in service got this victory medal. This one is Asia Pacific. We were in 2 battles. I don't know what this one says. One is the Philippines gave us a medal. This is American theater. All the ribbons did not have a medal.
Are you proud of your service? What did it mean to have served?
Oh, yes, I am. I mean, it kind of hurts me to see the way some people are so disinterested. They don't realize why they're here as a result of what people went through, and so many people died. It's the people that died at Okinawa on that one day, April 1st. How many people died there? Americans, thousands died in that one day. We were on a ship. We were pretty safe. It's a hard feeling to describe.
Well, thank you for your service.
You're welcome.